Greater Sandton and beyond. Get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, it is the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and also available on all good podcast platforms. I'm Alexander Leitner and this is edition 134. It's week 42 of 2023 and it's so good to be with you again for another week. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send through your questions and comments or even your feedback. You can use the email address editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media at Sandton Times or visit the website www.sandtontimes.co.za. And if you're listening live on Mix 93.8 and not at a later stage on one of the digital audio platforms, well, the WhatsApp line is open for you on 084 822 0938. That's 084 822 0938. And send through your voice notes, your messages. All of those are welcome and it's always good to hear from you. And I see even some of the podcast platforms have got the ability now that you can send a voice note as well. So it'd be good to hear from you if you're listening on one of those platforms. A very special welcome to everyone listening in Johannesburg and Pretoria, across South Africa or anywhere else in the world. Online or on air, wherever you are, I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandton land. And once again, I'm joined by my man behind the mixing desk, the one who makes sure that we always sound fantastic, Vincenzo. Good to see you again, buddy. And any thoughts on the rugby? No? Nothing from you? Well, if you were watching the rugby on the weekend, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please make sure you share those on the WhatsApp line. And certainly kept us on the edge of our seats, let me tell you. But it's been a busy week back in action. I don't know, these weeks sort of come in these ebbs and flows. Somebody said to me, it's been such a quiet month, but November looks crazy. I don't know, did you find October or September were quiet months? And now there's like this wave that hits you just before December? Well, I had a couple of summer menu launches. One of them was at Aurum, right here in Sandton Central, Aurum at the Leonardo. If you haven't been there, very, very nice restaurant. And they've got a new menu that they've presented. And then Ethos in Rosebank, also a very well-known restaurant, very nice. They had a bit of a tasting menu to introduce what they've got lined up for summer. Then Hey Neighbor, the Hey Neighbor Festival, which is coming to Pretoria in December. They had a media day and just showcasing their partners and also announcing some of the big artists that are coming out. I know Swedish House Mafia on the list and Khalid. There's a whole list of names. I mean, we can't even go through all of them. The Chainsmokers and, of course, a lot of South African artists as well. Then the advertising agency Publicis right here in Bryanston, well, they hosted a very insightful media day. They invited some media owners, the entire agency senior team, as well as some very well-known clients in terms of brands, to all sit together for a day and discuss what's happening on the media landscape. So if you're in marketing and branding, in advertising, this would have been the kind of day that you would find really insightful. How our audience is changing. I read a very interesting stat that our listening time for radio in South Africa has gone up to 2 hours and 15 minutes. Could that be coincidental that lines up with the length of a load shedding segment? 2 hours and 15 minutes? But supposedly people are listening to radio for longer, and also because we're stuck in traffic for so much longer. Because if there's load shedding, well, then that's it. Then you're going to be in your car for a while. So very interesting to see what's happening in that space. Also, how a lot of people are moving over to digital platforms. And we've just launched on a digital platform this week, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. And then I had a gin and gelato pairing at the Indaba Hotel as well. And then a lunch with Tullamore D.E.W, the Irish whiskey, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in the show as well. Coming up on this week's show, talking about it, South Africans are stirring and shaking things up on the international bar scene, and I'll be chatting to one of those global lists that measure how good we really are. Then we do a bit of travel to one of South Africa's favorite island destinations to tell you what's new and happening ahead of the December break. Stay tuned for that if you're planning a trip overseas or you want to get away for the December holiday. And finally, I wrap up the hour with a chat to a global whiskey ambassador to chat about Irish whiskey. And don't they need a shot of that right now after this weekend? But let's not talk about that. All this and more coming up shortly, but time to get the hour going with our first bit of music right here on the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8.
Show some love.
subscribe, share
Leave a review and rating for the Sandton Times Hour.
on your favorite podcast app now.
Now's the time to invest in you. Get ready to shine with Virgin Active this summer. Start with a free bag plus the rest of October on us. Level up and get the freedom to gym at any club with a Premier membership and score 25% off fees. Or get the family moving and bag 40% off monthly fees. Call 0860 Get Fit or visit your nearest club to get started. You've got this, and we've got you. virginactive.co.za. T's and C's apply.
The best of talk and music in 1 hour. This is the Sandton Times Hour.
Yes, this is the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and available on all good digital audio platforms. That was Two Colours, Safri Duo and Krista Sarandi with Cynical. And a lot of you might remember that well-known Safri Duo track that just skyrocketed them into global fame. And it's good to hear that tune back in the mix again. Let's take a look at some of the headlines for this week. Where are South Africa's billionaires buying property, you ask? Well, Business Tech ran a piece on this looking at the latest Centimillionaire report by Henley and Partners and the New World Wealth. Now, 102 centimillionaires have investable assets of over $100 million. So that's 1.9 billion rand or more, Vincenzo, in South Africa. I feel like we need some appropriate music for this segment. Let's try and see if we can get something there. Vincenzo, just find something there in the record box there. Let's just have a quick look here. There we go. That sounds good. All right, let's have a look here. Right. Cape Town is by far the most expensive city for centimillionaires, coming out at 100,000 rand a square meter. 100,000 rand. Then Hermanus and Plettenberg Bay complete the top three, with both costing 42,000 rand a square meter. And if you're a centimillionaire, you might also be looking at Umhlanga. It's the fourth most expensive area in South Africa at 38,000 rand a square meter. And then finally, the finance hub of Sandton Central, well, it's in fifth with 34,000 square meter. So if you're living the lifestyle of the rich and famous, well, this is where you're investing your money. Cape Town, Hermanus, Plettenberg Bay, Umhlanga or Sandton. I can't say I cracked that list. Just turn that off. That'd be ridiculous. I mean, where are we going to find this kind of money now to be buying properties? Well, then there are new driving license cards planned for South Africa. And according to the South African, there are 5 things we should know about these new driver's license cards. That printing machine that keeps breaking, remember that one? That we always have to go send for repairs. Well, that comes to an end. That'll be decommissioned, and then we'll get a new printing machine. Hopefully this one has a better warranty or whatever it is that they need to keep it repaired. The current cards will continue to be recognized until March 2029, so there's a bit of time for that. A new system will be introduced with driving license cards linked to smart card technology. So the cards are linked to smart card technology, but the drivers aren't linked to anything smart. I mean, if you've seen some of the driving on our highways, I mean, coming back from Germany, I almost fell off my chair. I mean, the Autobahn or the motorway, you can go 220, 230. I mean, they're uncapped in some sections of the German motorway. And the discipline on that road is sensational. And that's why they can drive at the speeds that they do. The cars are well kept. The drivers know what they're doing. People drive responsibly. I mean, if you had to do that in South Africa, more carnage. Anyway, let's move along. The new system will be introduced and has improved securities, including biometric data, holograms, watermarks, and also trying to reduce fraudulent licenses and improve road safety. I'm not quite sure how the cards are going to improve the road safety, but certainly the drivers could maybe do with an upgrade. The new card will be valid for 8 years instead of current 5 years. Okay. And the trial of the new cards will run until the March 2024, and I'm assuming they'll be phased in at that point. The new proposed card will also make the country's driving license compatible with the International Information Technology Personal Identification Compliant Driving License, ISO 18013, for those people who are really interested in that. And then also this week, the Sandton Times launched on a new Apple and Android mobile app called Listen. alongside several notable South African media brands, making the Sandton Times content more accessible than ever before. If you're listening on the Listen app, congratulations and welcome to the Sandton Times Hour. Listen is a mobile app, and it's Listen without an E. So if you're looking for it on the app right now, it's Listen is without the E. It's a mobile app providing a curated selection of radio media brands, including Mix 93.8. So you can listen to Mix 93.8 as well on the Listen app. And the Sandton Times will be available on the Mix 93.8 stream, as well as the Simply Smooth, Simply R&B, and Simply Gospel streams. Isn't that simply fantastic? Listen is available for download on both Android and Apple devices, as mentioned, and we've also put the details up on the Sandton Times website. Let's leave the headlines there for this week. After the break, I'm joined by the Director of Content at 50 Best, William Drew, as the international recognition adds a Johannesburg and Dubai bar to its 2023 list. Stay listening. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
The latest news,
The biggest names,
the best destinations.
the hottest entertainment. This is the Sandton Times Hour.
This is the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and available on all good podcast platforms wherever you are in the world. And as we get this week's hour going, I'm excited that South Africa is listed once again on sort of a big international list in the hospitality space. We got the results of the world's 50 best bars. And it recognized the best bars across the world, as the name says. And I'm thrilled to tell you that one of Johannesburg's, probably well-known bar establishments, Sin+Tax, is on that list. But to talk about this and so much more is William Drew. He is the Director of Content at 50 Best. And William, thank you so much for being on the Sandton Times Hour.
Hi, Alexander. No, a pleasure to be here.
William, maybe just to create some context first, tell us a little bit more about 50 Best. What is the list and the award all about?
For the last 14 years, the 50 Best organisation has been creating a list of the world's 50 best bars, and indeed those bars ranked from 51 to 100 in the world. So in total, the 100 best bars in the world. The list is created from the votes of almost 700 experts spread across the world, each of whom vote for the best bar experiences they've had. It's a snapshot of opinion and of changing trends in the cocktail world. And Sin+Tax is featured on this list before in the 51 to 100, and we've just released 51 to 100 list, as we call it, early this week. And delighted that South Africa is represented there by Sin+Tax. In Singapore, we actually reveal the world's 50 best bars themselves live in a ceremony on Tuesday the 17th.
Okay, well, that's great, and hopefully we get to see something from South Africa on there again, but it's always great when we're recognized on the international stage. And I mean, co-owner Julian Short at Sin+Tax, he's had a really good year. He also won the Diageo world-class competition here in South Africa, and he's off to Brazil to represent South Africa there. So I think he can't complain about 2023 in terms of his career. I also picked up on Galaxy Bar in Dubai. That is on the list as well.
Strong South African connections from friends at Galaxy Bar. That's been representing the Middle East over the last few years. I think a fantastic bar. I think both the bars, Sin+Tax and Galaxy, and their rising profile is reflective of the broadening bar scene and the rising bar scene across the whole world that is not so concentrated on, if you like, the traditional centers of the cocktail industry. By that I mean London, New York, even Singapore, Hong Kong, that we're actually going much wider than that, and many more cities are getting a look in and showing that they have got their own great flagship bars, but also bar scenes as a whole. We're seeing a lot more across the African continent, a lot more across the Middle East as well. So that's really exciting to widen the spotlight and show great cocktail culture in many different countries and not just in the kind of traditional centres.
Well, the people who read the Sandton Times regularly would know that Galaxy Bar does in fact belong to the Tasha's Group, which a lot of people know in South Africa for its sort of bistro-style, cafe-style restaurants. And Natasha Sadiris set up the Galaxy Bar when she moved to the Middle East. And like you said, strong South African connection there. But I'd like to ask you, what are these experts looking for when they are evaluating these bars? Is it just about making a great cocktail, serving a great drink, or is there more to it?
It's a great question, because we don't actually tell those experts what to look for, because every expert has a different factors that make a great bar for them. So if you would go into a great bar, it might be the service that's the most important thing. For someone else to go in, it might be the precise detail of the drink. For most of us, it's a mixture of all of those things. We don't give criteria about what makes a great bar, because everyone's opinion on what makes a great bar, and indeed what is the best what are the best bars in the world, everyone's opinion is different. That's the beauty of a list like this. It has a great diversity, but it's the collation of diverse group of expert opinions, and they may have very different views, but it comes together to create an interesting list that brings attention to the bar world and creates excitement, bit of competition, but also a lot of collaboration and celebration from the bar teams themselves. They get the chance to enjoy and celebrate each other's success.
What's some of the feedback you've received from some of these bars that have won some of these awards, maybe more than once in their existence? Does it significantly change the way they operate? I mean, do they become sort of like destinations for bar aficionados around the world?
Absolutely that. Yeah. I mean, if you're in the world's 50 best bars, and certainly if you get to the very top of that list, it can change your business. It can change your business forever. We've seen last year a bar in Barcelona in Spain called Paradiso was named the world's best bar for the first time. Literally the next day, the queues were around the block to get in there, and they haven't stopped being around the block. They've had to change their reservation system as a result. They've had to, it crashes the website because there's too many people going on there to try and, book a reservation slot. So it can make a massive difference. But also collectively in any city or any country, if you have a strong bar culture and there are lots of bars represented on featured on this list, it can help drive the whole food and drink sector, and by that the sort of gastro-tourism. So more and more people, as people will come to Johannesburg or Cape Town for not only the weather and the lifestyle, but also the food and the drink. You'll know that from in South Africa, the wine country and so on. So this can happen through great bars as well. It can help drive destination tourism, more people coming to that city or country from overseas to sample its great cocktails, great restaurants, great wine.
Oh, well, it's fantastic. Well, there you have it. William Drew, he's the Director of Content at 50 Best, chatting about Sin+Tax in Johannesburg, there by Julian Short. Maybe you want to pay it a visit. They've made it onto the list this year. And also, of course, if you're heading to Dubai, go check out Galaxy Bar. The link there with Natasha Sadiris and Natasha's group. William, I thank you for taking the time to be on the Sandton Times Hour to chat about the world's 50 best bars for 2023. We're going to take a quick musical break and more of the Sandton Times Hour right after this.
Back for more?
The Sandton Times Hour continues.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 with Trinix and Fafa de Belém with Imoria, taking us into the second half of the hour. My name is Alexander Leibner, and if you listen regularly or if you're brand new to the show, welcome. If there's anything that you heard on the show that sounded great that you didn't get the details on, don't worry. We will put all the details up on the website. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to do it, so please bear with us when it does take a little bit longer. It means we're having a crazy week and we don't have a chance to put all the details up immediately, but we try and do it as best possible. It's under the show notes for this week's edition, so you look for show notes 134 on the website, and all the details are there. Breakdown, links, whatever we can get our hands on, we put it up on there. Also, be sure to check out the social media account at Sandton Times, and feel free to engage there on whatever platform you're comfortable with. And you can also use the hashtag Sandton Times Hour. As promised, I said I want to talk to you about a bit of travel, and I mentioned islands. And if you think about island holidays, there's one that comes to mind immediately if you're South African, and that is Mauritius. It's close by, it's easy to access, and also has a myriad of resorts to choose from. I think the last count was something over 250 different resorts that you can visit. I mean, it's a 4-hour flight. And if you plan your flights well, I know there's some airlines that leave in the morning and you get there at a good time in the day, so you can thoroughly enjoy that first day in Mauritius. And then if you fly Air Mauritius, well, they tend to fly a little bit late in the afternoon, then you end up getting there sort of at an odd hour of the night, and then, sort of your first evening is really just maybe at dinner or sleep, and your holiday only starts the next day. And then obviously on the last day, you have to fly out early, which means that last day of the holiday is also not quite happening. So you have to just factor that in when you plan your holiday, depending on what airline you fly with, that you might have 2 days extra or you might have 2 days reduced. So just think about that. I stayed at some great resorts and went to go check out some new developments in Mauritius, just to get a feel for what's up on the menu for those people wanting to travel this year. And one of those, starting off with, is on the East Coast called Sea Mauritius. It's part of Constance Hotels and Resorts. And when I say Sea Mauritius, it's not like the ocean, but sea as in Constance. It's a brand new brand that they launched during lockdown. And it is a really tremendous resort. And when I say it's a tremendous resort, it's a 2022 Traveler's Choice Award winner, and it's recognized as one of the best all-inclusive resorts in Africa by TripAdvisor. And when they say all-inclusive, that can often be very misleading. Often people go to an all-inclusive resort, it includes a lot, but then there's a whole list of things where you have to pay extra and you have to fork out more money. And you thought that you'd paid for all-inclusive, but then it's sort of semi-inclusive. When I say all-inclusive, this place is all-inclusive. I think there were a handful of things where they really required some additional payment. But for the most of it, I mean, I've never seen something as all-inclusive as this. And to give you a sense, it's got this very sort of relaxed beach vibe. It's not too formal, but yet it's still luxurious, and that's fantastic. And it gives you this sort of very relaxed feel the moment you arrive there. They've got this really cool machine that was actually built in South Africa. It's got like all kinds of wheels and cogs and bottles that they kind of throw into motion to get your welcome drink out of the way, and that is really fantastic. And then the rest of the resort is really like an adult play area, but it is just done in such a great way. They've got all these very Instagrammable spaces. So if you enjoy your photography, if you like stuff that looks fun and interesting, well, there's plenty of that. Starting off with the main restaurant where you kind of generally have some sort of buffet breakfast or lunch or dinner, and all of those are included. And they've got this massive recreated whale skeleton that hangs from the roof, and the food, as many people might know, Constance, is always spot on. I mean, the hotel does a tremendous job with doing some really amazing food. Downstairs from there, they've got a deli which is open the whole day. And this is what I was talking about when I talk about all-inclusive. So you go downstairs any time of the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Even if you've had breakfast, maybe you feel like you need to have a breakfast after breakfast. You know how sort of holidays go. You grab a picnic basket, and they've got this deli that has got everything. There's wines, there's beers, there's soft drinks, there's a soda fountain. All your drinks are looked after. You just go there, grab whatever you like. There's even Savannah and all of those things. You put it into the basket, and then you go to the deli counter, which has got salad sandwiches. There's pizza, there's crepes with Nutella, there's all of that, and it's being served all the time. And if you feel like you need a snack, you go in there, you grab a basket, you go sit on the beach, you go find a place you want to go, chill out, and you enjoy that basket. And you can do that any time of the day, as often as you like to. It's really fantastic. And that is really just one of those things that just is just such a fun element. They've got some great bars. They've got a beautiful stretch of beach. There's even a massive ocean trampoline in the ocean. So you swim up to it and you can go jump on the trampoline in the middle of the ocean. Fantastic. They're also known for their kite surfing. So if you're big into kite surfing, you know the East Coast can be a little bit windier. If you like kite surfing, this is the place to be for kite surfing. They host a lot of international events around kite surfing, but also if you want to have a hand at kite surfing or get into it, or you're very enthusiastic about kite surfing, this is the place to go to and check it out. They also have a whole bunch of water sports, which is amazing. They've got some fantastic bars. As you know, Mauritius is famous for rum, so there's a whole selection of rums that you can taste. And once again, also, most of them include it. So you don't have to go out and fork out more money because you want to try something a little bit fancier. They've got a beautiful spa area with a gym, with an outdoor exercise area, and you can really take in that sort of whole Zen garden that they've got. They've even got like a yoga space where you can do some yoga as well. Then they've also got a padel court. They've got a tennis court. So there's plenty to do for people who like to be active. And if you don't want to be active, well, there's plenty for you to not do as well, in terms of lying on the beach, relaxing next to one of the pools. They've even got this sort of plunge pool where you can sort of lie in the pool with these chairs and tables, and you can have a cocktail or you can have a drink. Also really, really great. And I know you're already saying, well, what about the rooms? The rooms are also very important, and the rooms are also stunning. They've got a very tropical island Mauritius vibe, and they're fun. you've got a fully stocked minibar. You can have everything in the minibar, and it gets restocked every single day. So if you eat the whole minibar, if you empty it out, all the snacks, all the drinks, they replenish it again, and you do it all again the next day. So this is where things start getting a bit dangerous. I can hear you. But just make sure you swim a lot and you exercise a lot, and hopefully you'll keep in shape. But that's not what holidays are all about. But that is Sea Mauritius. I encourage you to check it out. It is really something special. Great new addition to the mix of resorts that Mauritius has. Something to consider for the family. If you're a couple, if you've got kids, check it out. And it's certainly one for the holiday bucket list.
From Greater Sandton to the rest of the world, this is the Sandton Times Hour.
Our discussion around Mauritius continues, and as we made our way around Mauritius, you know, there's different coasts that you can visit in Mauritius, and if you're not familiar with all the different directions, well, you've got the north, which is obviously quite popular with a lot of the tourists. You've got Grand Bay there, you've got a lot of the big sort of tourist areas there. I think a lot of South African expats also live there, and then you've got the east that we've just spoken about. You've got the south, which is also a beautiful place to go visit, and then you've got the west coast, which a lot of people might argue is quite sheltered in terms of the weather. So you might find that you might have a much more sort of pleasant weather experience. I suppose it also depends on what time of the year you are in Mauritius. But one of the properties I got to visit there was Méridien Maurice, and you might know the Méridien brand. It's exceptionally well known around the world, part of Marriott International, and they have a stellar property there. And here to chat to me about that is Nick Barenblatt. He's the Senior Director of Marketing Operations for Europe, Middle East and Africa at Marriott International. And Nick, it's great to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thanks so much for having me, Alex.
So Nick, let's chat about Méridien Maurice. How would you define the property in terms of the offering that Marriott has? Because you have so many different options when it comes to traveling with the hotel group.
Under the Marriott Bonvoy portfolio in Mauritius, firstly, we've got 4 resorts. The Méridien Maurice has really been a property that we've had there for many years, but it's also coupled with the Western Turtle Bay Resort and Spa and the JW Marriott Mauritius Resort. And then most recently, we've got a new resort that's joined under Design Hotels called the Salt of Palma Resort. So each of these resorts are uniquely positioned, both in terms of location, but also in terms of what their brands offer to a customer. So having a range of different resort brand offerings and different property offerings really allows us to appeal to a broad market, those that might be family-orientated travelers down to those looking for a romantic break or honeymoon getaway.
And I mean, if anyone knows any of the names that you've just listed, they all know these are very decadent properties in their own way. And I mean, they all cater to very different kinds of travelers, but I must say they're all beautifully packaged, beautifully put together. My experience at Méridien Maurice was the first time I'd been there. It's a really big hotel. I mean, if you enjoy a bit of walking, there's plenty of space to walk. They also have golf carts if you've given up on the walking. They've got multiple swimming pools. There's different dining options that you can engage with. And then there's sort of almost like a sanctuary area. I think that's the space that I got to experience. It's almost like call it private area, a private hotel room space where you have your own bar, your own swimming pool. You have access to different items and different elements that sort of the rest of the hotel doesn't have. Do you find that those kind of features are quite popular with guests? That sort of hotel within a hotel?
For sure. If you think about our customer base, they're different reasons for people going on a holiday, and what they're looking for does vary. So with Méridien Maurice, what we've done really successfully there is it's a resort that's positioned for families, family-oriented travel. It's got the right programming, the right animation and entertainment offering to really keep the little ones busy and giving time back to the adults to also have a holiday. But that space that you were speaking about is the Nirvana space. So really a designated area of the resort that is exclusive for adults only. So you've got your own exclusive pool area, you've got your own bar area, restaurant areas, and then obviously from a room configuration perspective, really engineered to really kind of have an elevated experience for couples. And that really blends 2 different kind of purposes, but under one resort banner.
Stunning. And I think one of the favorite places that I enjoyed having breakfast or lunch or even dinner was the Paparazzi restaurant, which is a very Italian restaurant. Beautiful setting, overlooks the ocean, but also just really well put together, a great Italian dining experience. And then, of course, the rooms, which were ultra modern, but also had all the luxuries that you could ask for. And you have this very sort of exquisite holiday island experience, having access to the nature, but also still having all those things that you need, that you can comfortably stay and enjoy your experience at the hotel. One other thing that I also really enjoyed about it was the fact that you also included some excursions, and one of those was L'Aventure du Sucre in Mauritius. And I've been going to Mauritius probably since 2007. And I'd never heard of this place, and I believe it's been around for such a long time. And had it not been for my stay with you, I would have never known about this attraction. And indulge me for a second, Nick, while I take everyone down this road with L'Aventure du Sucre. But you essentially get a voucher included as part of your stay. The hotel made arrangements for us to go see this place. And if you go to Mauritius, this is the place you also want to go and see, because it gives you so much background about the history of the island, the history of sugar on the island, and obviously industry on the island. But not just that, it's exceptionally well put together. Sometimes these things are put there to tick a box, and it's something for the tourists to look at, and it's not always a great experience. In this instance, L'Aventure du Sucre, I must say, I can't believe I hadn't ever heard of it before. It was a fantastic day out. You really get to understand the island, understand the culture, understand the industry of sugar specifically, but other industries as well. You can do a little bit of shopping there. And Nick, I thought it was fantastic that the team had sort of added that to the hotel experience. So you're not sort of just experiencing the hotel, but you're also experiencing more of the culture of the island.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Alex, because I think there's so many times where guests or travelers will go to Mauritius, and for a general stay in Mauritius is 7 nights, and they sometimes never leave the resort because obviously the resorts really cater for, once you're there, you've got everything on hand, you've got multiple outlets to enjoy, so you don't get bored from a food variety perspective, lots of entertainment, water sports, beaches. But when you really step out of the resorts, there's so much to offer on the island. We've seen your experience is something that a lot of our customers speak about. Also, a lot of customers speak about looking at going and doing some further water sports and activities and experiences in Tamarin Bay, swimming with dolphins in their natural environment. Obviously, also looking to go snorkeling with giant turtles. And then we've also seen some interest where we've gone out into nature and actually experienced the volcano, going up into kind of taking in those kind of scenic views from the top of the mountains. But also there's a beautiful area, which is one of the geographic wonders, which is the 7 colored dunes area, which also, when you take some time out and really kind of get out of the resort and really experience the culture and most importantly, the scenic beauty of Mauritius, really leaves one with a different sense of appeal for that destination.
Absolutely, and I think it adds so much more to the trip. I mean, obviously you want to stay at a nice resort and have enough to do there, but it's great to be able to venture out a bit and then also have a place to come back to that you actually look forward to coming back to after a day of exploring and excursions. And I think it hopefully whets your appetite as you listen to this to have a look at this as an opportunity when you visit Mauritius, because I think there's just so much more to see. I mean, they've also got a fantastic Indian restaurant, which was also just absolutely divine if you enjoy Indian food. There's a spa, and then the sort of critical yet sometimes avoided gym. There's a really great gym there. So if you want to work out in between all your exploring and eating and drinking, you have that opportunity if the water sport doesn't burn some calories as well. But Nick Barenblatt, Senior Director of Marketing Operations for Europe, Middle East and Africa at Marriott International. Thank you so much for joining me on the Sandton Times Hour to chat about Le Méridien Île Maurice.
Thanks, Alex.
We're going to take a quick break with a bit of music and more after the break, right after this.
Online, on air,
Anywhere, anytime.
this is the Sandton Times Hour.
This is the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and available on all good digital audio platforms. Glockenbach featuring Clock Clock with Brooklyn, taking us into the final stretch of this week's edition. And I enjoy a good dram of whiskey once in a while. And this past week, as I mentioned, I joined Irish whiskey Tullamore D.E.W for a lunch to meet Kevin Pigott, who's the global whiskey ambassador for the brand. He was visiting South Africa for the first time, and sportingly, he also wore a Springbok jersey during the lunch, so good on him. We had a chance to chat, and I asked him about his visit to our shores.
I'm very blessed and fortunate to be on my first international trip to South Africa, starting in Cape Town and finishing in Joburg, promoting, I guess, our new campaign, Be More Tullamore, celebrating the town, the community where we make the whiskey, and celebrating, I guess, community spirit everywhere we go. that's why I'm here, promoting Irish whiskey. It's growing a lot for us in South Africa. It's a key market over the next 10 years for us to focus on. We know Irish whiskey is popular here. People like that flavour palette, and the feedback we're getting from the market is that they want more. So we're working on more campaigns, and we have some exciting stuff coming down the line for South Africa.
We've touched on something very interesting. I mean, Irish whiskey is very popular in South Africa. And you mentioned Tullamore, which a lot of people know, Tullamore D.E.W, but a lot of people might not know that it is actually a town. Tell us a little bit more about this town.
Yeah, so Tullamore is a small town in the heart of Ireland. Just like you think of these small towns in Ireland, they don't have a huge amount of other business, but a big global whiskey is a huge deal. So it's huge for tourism, it keeps the town alive, it's really helpful for employment. You know, we've got one of the largest employers in the town. And it gives a vibrancy to the town. There's an excitement and proudness that comes from having this whiskey that when you go around the world, you see it on shelves. So that's where the first part of the name comes from, Tullamore. The second part is the man who made it. So that's Daniel Edmund Williams. And we combine the man who made it and the town, and that's what you've got, Tullamore D.E.W.
Amazing. In terms of the brand, how's it faring in South Africa compared to other markets?
Yeah, we broke the 20,000 case mark, which is always a good milestone. It means you're getting into the broader category. More people know you. You're in the right bars. You're starting to sell more. It's quite interesting. I think we're planning what that growth looks like for the next 5-10 years across South Africa. I had some family members who worked in Irish whiskey in South Africa before, and they know it's a good, strong market that people really like the flavours. So I think we're in the right space. We know the country likes a lot of whiskey. You know, you love amazing South African brandy that has some similar distillations, triple distilled and pot stills, and you know about barrel maturation. So I think a lot of the flavours resonate with the people here more than other countries that are more gin-led or vodka-led.
What are you seeing are some of sort of the trends that are sort of appearing in terms of whiskey globally? Is it a growing category? Has it gone back? Has it gone into a totally different direction?
Yeah, so Irish whiskey, first of all, speaking specifically about that, it's booming. It's the fastest brown spirit growing category in the world. 10 years ago there was 4 distilleries in Ireland, now there's 47. So that's a lot, right? We've boomed dramatically, and I mean every big company, you know, has went and either bought an Irish whiskey or tried to build one and make one themselves. So every big player you can think of has got into the Irish whiskey game because it's booming. Our sales, you know, if we look at it, we've gone from about 6.5 million 10 years ago to over 20 million bottles. So our brand is just growing like crazy. A lot of North America, a lot of Europe, but Africa and LATAM are 2 focus for Tullamore D.E.W going forward. And my global brand director was out here just this week, so she's setting, I guess, a lot of the plans with the local distributors and teams and understanding the market to make sure we understand the South African consumer and how they're different and what they want from a whiskey brand and what they want it served. Spoke about like local nuance earlier, and XO. In some countries they didn't know what XO was, but everyone in South Africa knows what XO is. Kind of in a lot of bars you see XO Hennessy or different cognacs that have this, so there was some familiarity with the term, which helps people with the understanding. In some markets they never heard of XO, so it's a bit trickier to sell. But I did a few tastings yesterday in Cape Town in Cause and Effect, one of the top 100 bars in the world, and they were all like, XO was their favourite. And then tonight we're going to one of the top bars in Johannesburg, Sin+Tax. So very excited to see how they play with the whiskey and which one's their favourite.
Tell me about Irish whiskey. For those people who drink whiskey, they're probably very familiar with the differences between Scottish, and then obviously you've got the American bourbon. There's Japanese who've done very well with whiskey as well. But what makes Irish whiskey so unique and so distinctive, and why is it so popular?
Yeah, I think if we go back in history, we're the first people to make it. We're renowned as the makers of whiskey globally. If you think Scotland did, you can go on YouTube. Charles MacLean, one of the most famous historians from Scotland, he speaks about Ireland being the makers of whiskey before the Scots, and he's one of the most revered people in the Scotch whiskey industry. And that's quite an interesting starting point, right? So we have a lot of experience. We're 194 years making whiskey. You know, I said we're 58 years old in Glenfiddich. So we're steeped in history. It's our culture, it's our heritage, it's what we know. We triple distill. We're famous for triple distillation. It doesn't have to be triple distilled, but Tullamore is. It gives it that silky smoothness. It removes some of those sulphur properties we don't like in some heavier spirits. Most Irish whiskey isn't peated. We don't use smoke, peat to dry our grain in the malting process. We use anthracite, smokeless coal. So that way we get a cleaner spirit that's more mixable. Today we had some beautiful whiskey sours. We do a lot of work with Irish coffees, so we mix our spirit a lot too. This versatility comes from the triple distilled. How are we different to the bourbons? We're not quite as sweet. We don't use any GMO grain, not very sweet whiskies. It's not as earthy, as mossy as some of the Scottish styles. It's kind of cleaner, a little bit sweeter, but not being overly sweet. And the palate, because of the way we make Irish whiskey, there's 3 styles of whiskey in Ireland: single malt, single grain, and single pot still. The single malt is quite fruity, single pot still is quite spicy, and the grain is quite sweet. All 3 together form Tullamore. So you get this really nice balance of flavours, and we're about to make a cocktail with a beautiful balance of flavours that has that sweet, that spice, and a bit of that, that undertone of fruit or citrus dimension that brings this real balance of flavour like no other.
That's the voice of Kevin Pigott, Global Whiskey Ambassador for Tullamore D.E.W, Irish whiskey. And I know the Irish will be recovering from a seriously heavy defeat against the All Blacks this past weekend, but they put up an incredible fight and they've played remarkably well in this Rugby World Cup, and I think they can be very proud of their team, even though this was the end of the road in the 2023 Rugby World Cup. Talking about the end of the road, it's the end of the hour for this week, and thank you so much for listening. As always, if you want to get in touch, you can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za, connect on social media @Sandton Times, and visit the website sandtontimes.co.za, and feel free to send through your questions, your comments, your feedback, your thoughts, and your input. All of those are welcome, and we try and work through them as rigorously as possible. Thank you to all my guests who made the time to be on the show this week, as well as Vincenzo, thank you for all the good work. And enjoy the rest of the Rugby World Cup as much as possible. I mean, it's the end of end of October. It's all over. Well, thank you to the Sandton Times team, as well as everyone at Mix 93.8, and thank you for listening, and let's connect again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.